Modern Warfare 2 is inching closer and closer to its release date, and seeing as this is going to be the last Call of Duty for a couple of years, well, we need to look at a few things as to what this game needs to actually do in order to not only maintain some interest over that couple of years, but to also actually live up to the hype that is surrounding this game, because not only does this individual game depend on it, I think Call of Duty will survive even if this game isn't as hot as it's hyped up to be. But as an FPS player, we need literally anything to play right now. So please, gaming gods, help us. Anyway, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to leave it a nice, thick, and juicy like as always. Of course, if you enjoy this kind of content, you want more like it, be sure to hit that big red sexy subscribe button right underneath the video. Also, got to thank my channel members. You guys help make these videos possible. If you're enjoying, get access to the exclusive perks that they get, and be sure to check out that link in the description down below. So first things first, like I said, it's going to be a couple of year life cycle that they're going in and planning on doing for this game. So one thing they need to do is actually plan for this longevity. Now, I'm sure it's no secret to many of you who have been playing Warzone for the past few years that, especially through Black Ops Cold War's life cycle, and really by the time Vanguard came out, Warzone was starting to show its age because they just kept building on the Modern Warfare groundwork that had been laid, because they weren't really expecting Warzone to take off like it did when they released it and basically saved Modern Warfare 2019 with Warzone. I do think they're of course planning on this. They better be planning on being able to add to this game and evolve it as the technology evolves, so you don't have things like people on console not having an FOV slider several years down the line, when that's like bog standard for any decently competent FPS game. And again, this isn't even just technologically, I would say also in terms of content. I think we saw when Operation Monarch came out, the graphical quality of King Kong and Godzilla was not exactly amazing. So, not saying that that would be easy to do in the first place, not saying that they should have looked incredible or something like that. I'm sure it was very stressful on the systems and the servers and everything to be able to even run those, but still, I think this thing needs to be built in order to evolve with the technology. It doesn't need to have technology that's ahead of its time, but it needs to be able to be built upon in a much easier way than what it seems like they've had to do with the current Warzone that was built off of Modern Warfare 2019. The next thing the game I think needs to do is not be so meta focused. This applies to both Modern Warfare 2's base multiplayer as well as Warzone and DMZ and any other things that come to the game. It needs to be not so meta focused. I know Call of Duty is much more competitive than a lot of other FPS games out there. I know some people are like, oh no, it's a casual shooter. Yes, it is, but there is a pretty large professional and competitive crowd that comes along with Call of Duty. And when you have such strong metas, I think it really does take away from the ability to go in and have this sandbox experience. I think Warzone, you can get away with playing a little bit off meta, but if you remember back during the multiplayer of Modern Warfare 2019, and even if you go back and try to play it today, you're going to see a lot of the same meta weapons, whether it's an MP5 that's Damascus to the hilt, or an M4A1, which went through like 10 nerfs, but was never really so weak that people stopped using it. It's just one of those things that was such a prominent issue with Modern Warfare 2019, and after that, Black Ops Cold War definitely helped improve it. And then with Vanguard, a little bit better. Similar kind of issue, honestly. Especially at launch, I haven't played a whole lot of Vanguard, so forgive me. But Black Ops Cold War definitely offered a bit more of a variety in terms of weapon choice, and I did enjoy that much more in that regard. But again, with Modern Warfare 2, I think with the amount of weapons people are expecting, you want to be able to use all of those weapons. If you have 50 weapons, just off the top of my head, not saying that that's what it's going to be, but if you have that many weapons in the game and only 2 of them are really viable, I don't think that lends itself to a fun experience, because then you're asking yourself, well, what's the point of all these weapons if I'm only ever going to use 1 or 2 of them? And even then, once you get into the gun bench, what's all this customization for if only one loadout, one setup for this gun is actually viable? I think being able to build the maps as well as balance the weapons in a way that offers that more sandboxy approach to where you can pretty much pick up whatever you want, set it up how you want to, and use it to your play style. I think that would offer a much better experience, especially when it comes to the longevity of this game, as I talked about in my previous point. Lastly, and I think this really applies to people who are looking forward to DMZ, is DMZ needs to be tied with Warzone and be under free to play. I think there have been some leaks saying that it will be packaged with Warzone, but I've also seen others saying that it won't be. It'll be a part of Modern Warfare 2 and be behind that paywall. I do hope that's not the case. As someone who's covered the past 2 Battlefield games, Hazard Zone and Firestorm, 2 pretty solid modes, suffered the fate of it's behind a paywall when it should have been free to play, and now no one is playing those game modes. They died as soon as they launched. And not saying that DMZ would necessarily suffer that immediate fate, but it's much more likely that it wouldn't have the impact that people would expect if that were to be the case where it is behind a paywall. So I do think DMZ needs to be free to play. I also think it needs to have a reason to come back to it. Again, I'm going back to Battlefield 2042 Hazard Zone. If you haven't played it, honestly, I don't blame you. Not that many people have played 2042, and even fewer have actually played Hazard Zone. I've played like 3 matches of it, and I can tell you there's absolutely no reason to keep playing it, because sure, it might be fun for a couple minutes, but once you play it, what is the point? There really isn't much of one. I don't even know. And that's the thing, and I think a lot of the more casual shooters in the market are kind of struggling with what games like Tarkov or Hunt Showdown do so well. It's a very hardcore experience, and there is something on the line. I think maybe something along the lines of skins or something, or I don't know. There's different things you could maybe wager, if you remember wager matches back in the day with Call of Duty. I think something along those lines could make a comeback here, and it'd be very interesting to see what they could do with that, so you add some more stakes to it, so you really feel if you don't make it out in DMZ versus if you do make it out. And again, you feel those high stakes. It means something to win or to lose in that mode. I think that'd be very cool. That'd be very interesting. But again, I can see why it would be a struggle to balance, because when you approach a game like Call of Duty, you're not necessarily looking for that ultra hardcore high stakes experience. Sure, you have Warzone and the Battle Royales. Yes, you die, then you're out of the match, whatever. That's just how Battle Royales work. The stakes are you have 1 life and you need to go in there and you need to be the last one standing. But then when you go back and you go to something like DMZ, if it's supposed to be a Tarkov-like mode, how do you raise those stakes even higher? Sure, it's a 1 life mode. Games like Tarkov are a bit more than that. Games like Hunt Showdown are a bit more than that. So again, it's going into that, trying to find that approach that isn't so hardcore it turns people off, but it isn't too light to where it feels like there's no stakes. I think that'll be the most difficult thing for DMZ to try and go in and find out, but we'll get hands on at some point soon. If it's not during the beta, then it'll be when the game launches, and I'm very much looking forward to that. Let me know down below what you guys think about Modern Warfare 2. Is it going to live up to the hype? What are you most looking forward to? Let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next video.